We are excited about the information that we have to offer. Let me share with you at the outset, there is a difference between classroom management and conduct behavior. Okay? There's a big difference. So if you will just allow us an opportunity, what is classroom management? Now, I know you're looking up here, but in your mind, before you start reading what Wikipedia is saying and all these other things, I think this moved a little too quickly. What is classroom management? Anyone? Anyone? Classroom management. Now, listen, I'm a Baptist preacher, and I'm used to folk talking back to me. I let you out early when you say amen. Amen. So, in your definition, what's classroom management? Yes, ma'am.
Keeping a sense of order.
Keeping a sense of order. Okay. What else? Established guidelines. Same thing. Yes, ma'am. Constructive environment. Wonderful. An environment conducive to learning. Procedures and rules. Okay? Okay, we all can agree upon that? Here's what Wikipedia defines classroom management as. Okay? It describes the process of ensuring that classroom instruction runs smoothly despite disruptive behavior by students. Being able to get control back over. It's like when my mom used to, when I was in church, my mom would, I could sit in the back of the church and she could see me and all she had to do was look at me and just, because I knew, I knew exactly what she expected. Even though my behavior was not what she taught me, when she had control over me by not even saying anything to me, okay? Because I already knew what the established boundaries were that was acceptable in terms of my behavior. Okay? The term also implies the prevention of disruptive behavior. Okay.
I'm speaking as Alice over here, okay?
Of disruptive behavior, classroom management is closely linked to issues of motivation, discipline, and respect. Motivation, discipline, and respect. You establish it at the beginning, they know what the rules, regulations, and where the line is drawn. Okay? Nothing against anyone in here. Students like to be motivated by their instructors. They like to be challenged by their instructors. When I was in school, oh my gosh, I had an instructor, all they wanted to do was read out of the book. Well, I could stay in my room to read out the book. How do you motivate? How do you apply some of these things in real life issues for me that's in that book? Bring it out. Respect begets respect. Okay? Here's how you motivate them. Varying factors depending upon the types of students and type of instructor. Here's some threads. Establish a sense of belonging. If I feel like I really, really belong in that class, like there's something that's drawing me there, I can't wait to get there, you're going to get the best out of me. Okay? Make the class real. Just talked about it a little bit. Okay? Vary the choices when possible. Help create a positive and open environment and be approachable. Oh my goodness. Students like folks they can talk to, especially with your knowledge, but being able to apply it on their level. Okay? I don't have time for you. I have other things I need to do. Gosh, I need help. And you're here to help me. That's one of the first lines that just seems to start building walls, is when we can't communicate with one another. Okay?
And often Mark and I will get have you talk with your instructor about the situation? And 9 times out of 10, they have said no because they felt that they couldn't approach the instructor.
Yep. Now, we're not saying, let's go to Applebee's. Let's hang out after class. Oh, there. That's not the lines, that's not the approachable portion we're talking about. We're talking about them being able to come and get help from you when they need help. Even if you can't help them at that moment, establish a time that you can. Once they feel comfortable with you, they'll feel as though they can come to you about anything. And it may not just be academic. I'm having some real personal issues. And while we're not saying that we are counselors, and we can certainly be that intake. And you'll get to know your students. You'll know that, you know, oh, Mark Gibson, he showed up, and now all of a sudden I come back to class and I look like Moses, and I'm, you know, my beard is grown all down, and my hair is everywhere, and I smell like a ram goat, and all of a sudden, you know there's something wrong with me. Because we've established that rapport, and now you take a sense. And guess what? When I turn that corner from the issues that I'm dealing with, guess who I'm going to be very appreciative to that was the person that was my first point of contact? You as the instructor. You will see these students more often than Karen and I will see them. You'll see them on a more daily basis. And so you'll be able to determine when a student is going through some things that they're not saying. There's a lot of conversations that students have that never come out of their mouths, but just by the behavior they display. Okay? I promise you, this PowerPoint presentation will be like Elizabeth Taylor to her third husband. We won't keep you long. Some of y'all will get that after lunch. How to incorporate discipline. Stick to the established guidelines, rules, and regulations of your class. If you bend for one, well, Dean Finnessy let me do this. And watch this. It's a domino effect, because if you allow it in your class, then you've got to allow it in yours, and you've got to allow it in, because they will remind you. When we see them, they've already passed the bar, because they come in with their, you know, they know the rules and regulations, they know the federal law, and you can't do this to me. And okay, well, why are you here at Wake Tech and not at Harvard and those kinds of things? But they will play off of what one does for one. And you don't do the other. You've got to be consistent in that. You've got to be consistent. I have an identical twin brother, well, a late identical twin brother, and we played off that a lot. Well, you did it for him. Same thing happens with these students. When you do it for one, make sure you're consistent doing it for all. Okay? Stick to your established rules and regulations. Determine what your protocol is. Determine what your protocol is. Be consistent with everyone. Become familiar with our student code of conduct, our violations, and the student handbook. How many of you all have seen our student code of conduct? Wonderful. What's number 17? It is behave yourself, right? It's online. We do have desk copies, but it is online. It's updated more often online than it is in the desk copy. But I'll make sure that if you don't have a copy of it, I'll make sure before we leave this session here today that, or at least right after, you can step downstairs to 128, and we'll make sure you get a desk copy. But it is online.
And that's the most up-to-date version, Mark.
Right.
So even the version you have has had some changes since the online version. So you definitely want to check the online version, because that one will be up-to-date more so than anything else in print. You have a question?
Do new students receive a hard copy of that when they enroll or when they start class?
They do not.
They don't.
They do not.
They do not, but they are encouraged to study it online.
I linked it to my Blackboard.
Oh, good.
One of the first assignments that they go under all the class information. And the code of conduct is one of those handouts that they're required to read.
Yes. And a lot of people will do that. A lot of instructors have done something similar. And what we, Mark and I do, when they see us for any infraction of any kind, then information, or if they don't see us, when they get a letter from us, we note that in the letter that they get from us as well. So we'll give them the link with that information as well.
Okay? All right. Perhaps use a little Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand. I always told my students that were taking, I used to teach study skills, I always told them, test the instructor before they test you. What do you mean? Find out what their style is. Do they like multiple choice, essay? Do they prefer open-ended answers? Test them before. Find out about your instructors while they're finding out about you. But first, seek to understand who it is that you're dealing with. We're not asking you to find out their personal information, but just find out a little bit of it, because everyone has a different learning style. There is no cookie-cutter model of how you teach students, okay? And trust me when I tell you, I have the utmost respect for each and every faculty member that we have here, because you deal with a variety, not only of learning styles, but of personalities that come into your classrooms. So hats off. Okay? Incorporate respect. Give respect in order to be respected. One of the worst things that we have seen, both Karen and I, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but one of the worst things that we've seen is for you to confront a student in front of his or her peers. Bad decision. Absolutely bad. Karen, you gonna let her talk to you like that? Ooh. I wouldn't let that teacher talk to me like that. You paying your money, and guess what? It fires off from there, because now all of a sudden I feel like I've been disrespected, and particularly in front of my friend. And friends don't do anything but add fuel to that fire. And what could have been, let me see you in my office, let's step to the side, let's separate ourselves from there. What could have been avoided, that situation could have been avoided by simply pulling them to the side by themselves to address what issues you have. Now, you're respecting their privacy. You're not respecting the behavior that you have a problem with. You're respecting them as an individual to come to them. How many of you would like for your supervisor in a faculty or staff meeting or faculty meeting point you out in front of all of your peers? It's not going to feel good. Same thing happens with students in a classroom. Respect begets respect. You know what, Mr. Smith, I appreciate you pulling me to the side. I didn't realize I was having that kind of an impact on the classroom. I'll change it. And we move on from there. They will much more respect you when you handle it that way than trying to point them out, call them out, or as they say nowadays, put them on blast. Okay? Be fair to all. We talked about this a little earlier. Do it to one, do it for everyone. Be caring. Be caring. Be sympathetic with some of the situations you're going to deal with, because it could easily be you. But now, you've got some students whose grandmother, same grandmother, has died 15 times. I kid you not. We got some stories that one young lady gave us on letterhead from a funeral home in Nebraska that her cousin had passed away and she had to be gone. That's why she couldn't do her clinicals. This was on the health science campus. Not a problem. The problem that the instructor saw was that the funeral home didn't sound quite correct. There was not even a funeral home in the United States, let alone Nebraska, by that name. Okay? So, you will get all kinds of situations. You just got to wade through what is legitimate and what is not. Okay? Sometimes students will be late. We've been late for certain traffic, flat tire, okay. Those are understandable situations. You handle those the way your department tells you to handle them, or you handle them as an instructor. But someone who always has got flat tires, either they need to find another car, get an alignment, or they need to stop buying those used onions that they're putting on their cars. All right? Listening. One of the most important skills any of us can have. My mom taught me years ago, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Do less talking and more listening. Okay? Maintain a sense of decorum in your role, not trying to identify with students. What's up? What's up? What's up? That's not what we're talking about. Maintain your decorum as the instructor in that classroom, but also at the same time, be mindful to inject some humor sometimes. Okay? Life is way too precious to be so tight and serious. Make your class fun. Make it enjoyable. Let them know you're human. Let them know that you're human by having humorous moments. And it's okay. All right? I'm going to do this slide, and then Senior Dean is going to come and take us from here. We do not have all the answers. I can assure you this one thing. There is no day in our lives that is the same. Not one. There's not a day that an interesting situation does not pop off here at Wake Tech, or that there's a situation that just brightens, but every day is just brand new. There's no day I can compare with another one. But we don't have all the answers. And one of the things that I love about the role that I'm in is the fact that I can work as a team with this lady here. And I mean that. I've worked with a lot of co-workers, I've worked with a lot of other folks, but I can assure you of one thing. I value the team effort that we deal with. And our team effort is also predicated on our ability to work with you all as well. We're not working against you, we are working with you. Okay? You don't have time to cause confusion in a rowboat if we're all rowing in the same direction. Okay? Communication is an integral part. My wife, who is a very good friend of Karen's, was supposed to have booked some flight arrangements for us, and I kept telling her, go ahead and get it done. And so she didn't get it done, and now the price has gone up. She says to me, well, you should have said something. And then I did say something, and that's when I got up off the floor. We try to communicate as best we can, okay? Sometimes we miss opportunities because of the lack of communication, okay? My point in this is, if we don't keep talking to one another, something will fall through the cracks, okay? And this is where she and I, we always talk. There's not maybe we talk 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. But our communication is one thing. Your communication with us is something totally different. Don't wait for something to build before you start talking to us. It's all right to start jotting down certain incidents that happen. We'll get into this in a little bit more. But you have got to communicate with us as we will communicate with you. We can't handle a situation we don't know exists. Okay? So if you think it's a problem, and it comes outside of the box of classroom management, we'll talk about when it is time to report certain things, but sort of keep a log on what's going on with little Johnny. Okay? 3 or 4 times, I think I need to talk to Mark, or I think I need to talk to Karen. And now we start this communication. And I can assure you of one thing that we are charged to do, is to keep that line of communication open. Not only with one another, but with you as well. Okay? Keep an open mind. And here's the one that I love. Start out how you want to end up. You want to start out combative, guess how you're going to end up? You want to start out pounding the desk, they're going to be pounding the desk with you. But if you start out with saying, I want you to be successful in this class, they already know what your expectation is, and now they're trying to live up to your expectation. Start out with the end in mind. Okay? Okay.
Let me ask this question. What sorts of behaviors in the classroom do you find disruptive? We have a list of a few here. We would like to know others that didn't make this list.
I had a student last term who every single time brought in lunch, and it was always smelly and loud, and the wrapper was crackly, and students actually couldn't sit next to her because it was that bad.
And that's disruptive behavior, and that's something that can be addressed. So it doesn't always have to be someone who's texting or someone who's talking when you're talking, but that's disruptive. And so that's something that, you know, we can address, or you could address early and say, let's talk about this. Let me tell you what's happening. If you could not bring, you know, it in, and definitely not eating, you know, in the classroom, that's something that needs to be done outside of the classroom, unless you have someone who you know has health challenges. You may have someone who's diabetic, and that person still may need to leave earlier to go and grab a bite or in between some of your instruction. Is there something else that we didn't get here? Yes.
Not taking, constructive criticism well, they're kind of argumentative when you're correcting them.
Sure.
Or, because I'm a clinical instructor and some things need to be done a certain way.
Sure.
And I've had students become a little bit argumentative in front of patients. And it was very disruptive.
And how did you handle that particular situation with someone who was argumentative in front of a patient?
We secured the patient, make sure they were in the stretcher, make sure they weren't left unattended, and secured in the stretcher, and I took them out of the room and discussed it, very quickly.
Good.
And I've had even to dismiss this and say, you need to leave.
Sure.
Right this second and finish up.
Great. Good. Anything else? Yes.
Just agitated behavior, if somebody's, kind of moving in their seat and moving their chair constantly.
Sure.
And they just can't settle.
And that's disruptive behavior. And this is just a list. So when you find that that's happening in your classroom, in your environment, that's something that you can speak to the student about. And we suggest you do that. Because half the times they aren't even aware that they're doing some of this. Some of it is nervousness, some of it is just them being bored in some instances, but more than not, they just aren't aware. Yes.
Kind of along the lines of the constant interrupters, I've had students who just will not stop talking. They'll just keep going. It's not necessarily an interruption, but then you have to manage that, not seem like you're being rude to them,
Sure.
cutting them off.
Sure.
Just, we're all types.
And then maybe in the beginning, something could be, we're going to limit our comments to 1 or 2 minutes. I mean, if you say that before any of this stops, then everyone knows what the limits are. We only have 1 or 2 minutes to comment, and that way we'll give other people an opportunity to comment if they want. So that's something that, may work in that situation. Early on, say, okay, these are the parameters, these are the rules, and this is what we're going to adhere to. Yes.
Well, this is kind of it's not sidebar, but I have some students, because I teach computer information systems, and they want to help their neighbor, because
Sure.
I'm usually up front and we're going along together, because I always say no child left behind. So we're riding down this road together, and then they'll be over here, and they'll be on step number 2, and I'm on number 5. Then they, wait, Miss Harris, I didn't get that. And, just having to
Sure.
catch them up
Sure.
all the time.
Sure.
And then when I get my feel, and I might not be so hard. And so just trying to get some of those behaviors.
And that's where I think the rules in the beginning, let them know what the expectations are and say, we can come back after because of that, this is how we're gonna manage this. So, you know, it's just like, we just had, Premiere Day this past Saturday, and we're always looking at ways to improve upon last year's to make next year's better. So even when talking to Mark or other peers, we say, well, how did this work? And so we come together to try to at least find out, how can we make this better? So just getting some suggestions on how others are handling it will help as well. But always setting boundaries, I think, is really good. And that way they know up front before anything happens, and therefore someone doesn't feel like, well, they're dissing me. They didn't say anything to this person over here when they did it, but they said it to me when I did it. And when you tell them up front and tell everyone the same message, then they don't feel as much as if, oh, they're pointing their finger at me.
And Dean, I appreciate all of that, but I set the boundaries.
Sure.
I really do. And then, but sometimes I get a student, and then, but she won't help us. You know, you're the member of the class. You know, it just,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
We
I
see
am
them every
very
day.
consistent. I'm very
Sure.
consistent with my students. But sometimes they just have to be mad at me for a day or so. But usually they'll come back, because at the end of the class, one of the students made the comment. She said, Miss Edwards, I still enjoyed it. I learned a lot, even with all of our drama. Sometimes that's what it is, drama.
And then that's where Mark and I can come in and help as well, because even if, you know, we got a referral, and after you talk with them, sometimes it helps when they hear a different voice. And then we'll explain to them how they're being disrupted, and then how they can do things a little bit different, and not to come back to our office because of a concern of that nature.
Right.
So, and that's why we're here to help. So don't think that you have to say the same things over and over and over and not have any help. We're here to help in situations like this, for sure.
We always say, this is the dean's list you don't want to be on. All right, anybody else with disruptive behavior? We're good? All right.
When should you submit a student code violation form? And it's no longer the 1069, for those of you who have been here before. We used to have the 1069, and that's no longer in existence. It's a student code violation form now. Okay, after you're sure that it is a violation, and that's why it's important to read the student handbook and to see what the student code violations are, because you want to make sure it is in fact a violation before you submit a student code violation form. You want to make sure that you talk with the student first. Mark and I have in the past had students who we got referrals from instructors, and we asked the student, well, has the instructor said anything to you? No, I don't even know why I'm here. We don't want that to be the first time they hear why they're coming to see us. Okay. In some instances, your dean or department head may want you to confer with them first. So find out what their rules and regulations are as it relates to you doing a student code violation or an academic integrity code violation. They may want you to confer with them, and please confer with them prior to checking with us. If they say, go with what's in the handbook, then do that. We always like to find a workable solution. And oftentimes if you send us something, we may even contact you and say, this is what, you know, I'm kind of thinking about. Will this help your situation? Or can we do something other than have this person not be in your classroom? Okay, things of that nature. If the violation escalates after communication, you definitely want to do a student code violation form then. You don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. You definitely want to say, okay, I've given you enough time, and so now I'm going to have to do a student code violation form. So I'm sending this to the dean, and they'll be in contact with you. Of course, when a major violation occurs according to the student code of handbook, and in some instances, you may be able to do an emergency suspension, and it talks specifically about that in the student handbook. So we want you to definitely look at that to see when you can do
It is.
It's all done.
There's no paper at all.
No, and you can upload any attachments that you need to this form, and it will either come to Mark's office or to me.
Yep. Based on the campus that you're on,
Yes.
it will automatically route it either to myself or Jonathan Wirt, who's our associate dean, or it will route it to Senior Dean Finney. Okay?
And it is secure, and that's why you have to log in through Eagle's Nest in order to access the form.
Okay. One of the things that I want to make sure we also understand is it is very, very important that the student be communicated about what their violation is by you. It's very important. It's the equivalent of being pulled over for a traffic stop and the cop asking you or saying to you what your violation is. So when you go to court, you know why you're going to court, even if you're going to appeal it. But for him to just give you a ticket and then drive off, what did I do? That's right. So please, please, by all means, communicate with the student. We've had a couple of situations where the faculty members failed to talk to the student and the parent, because it's going to happen. The parent is going to get involved and say, due process was not given to my son or daughter. And then when I look back, guess what? I had to overturn the decision because due process was not followed. Okay?
When should you submit an academic integrity violation form? This is when you have cheating, plagiarism, someone who's copying, and both of these, academic and non-academic, you have 2 business days in order to submit that to Mark or me. 2 business days, and that's what's in the handbook, so you need to adhere to that because the students have timelines as well to adhere to. So it's 2 business days. There are times when it's towards the end of the semester and you may be grading papers right towards the end. But please do your best to try to adhere to the 2 business days. 2 weeks, 3 weeks is a bit much than sending in a student code violation on a student. Okay? Yes.
A question about cheating. You know, everybody has their cell phones anyway, but I had a student last semester who was taking a test and he had a cell phone on his leg.
Sure.
I always admit, you know, and I told him, you know the rules, there's no cell phones out. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He put the phone away, he failed the test then, right? Final exam day, there was a girl in the class who said, who I knew from days before her grandmother was very ill, they were waiting to hear, you know. So I said to the class, you know, Jennifer is the only person in this class, because of the family situation, who has permission to have that cell phone on her desk. Please make sure everybody else with the same kid, I catch with a cell phone on his leg. So this is during the final exam I just given this morning. So of course I'm on fire, and I removed him from the class, I made him get up, and I took him to our dean's office. And then from what you said before, so should I not call him out then? Or, you know what I mean? But in that situation, he gets the final exam, his phone is on his leg, and as we're walking through the dean's office, he's on his phone like this. I don't know what he was doing. And of course, he was saying he was just texting a friend.
Deleting this is weird.
Exactly right.
And even in that situation, yes, what, if Mark is sitting there with his phone and I know that this is a violation, I may say, Mark, can you come up here with me for a moment or whatever, and then I would say, or I could even step outside the door and say what I need to say to him and say, you know, after this is what's going to occur, but yes, but just causing a scene around others is what we want to avoid at all times.
So,
Is what we're
but in
saying.
the final, taking the final exam then, do I let him finish taking the final, even though I can tell he's on his phone?
Well, it depends on what it is your violation is going to be. Now, is your violation going to be a 0 for that exam? Is your violation going to be an F for that course? What is on your syllabi? What is it that you say that you're going to do if this happens? Okay, so that will determine what you will do in that situation. And it could mean letting them finish, because then you're going to have less of a disruption then, but are you going Is this person going to get an F for the course? What is your penalty going to be, sanction going to be rather, for that particular occurrence, especially after you share that with the student already. And when that happens, for example, when you have shared with him earlier on this particular day that you aren't to have the cell phone out, then that's when you make notes of that information. And you can even give him something in writing stating, on this day, I warned you that you are not to have the cell phone out in the classroom, and especially during the exams. And if this occurs again, then this is what this penalty is going to be. And then you can copy us on this information, because then what will happen when the next sanction comes to Mark or me, then we'll look at what the pattern has been in that particular class. So therefore we'll say, okay, this person has been warned here. We have this even in writing, and now we're going to the next level. And that's why it's important for everyone to remember and know what it is this person has done. But you can't put it all on the student code violation form all at the one time. If he did something in October or August, and now he's done something in December, well, you can't give us the one form and have everything from August to December on it. You can't do that.
That's why you can upload those, you keep your warning letter that you've given to them. And I can assure you, if you've got a paper trail, that's going to solidify what our decision is going to support you. We're here to support you all, but we're also advocates for the students as well.
Sure.
Okay?
The first time I thought, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, maybe, wasn't one I didn't see him.
Sure.
Well, that's the reason you write that warning letter. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, but here's what my rules and regulations are in this class. No cell phones are to be out unless authorized or pre-authorized by me as the instructor. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
When I have a verbal violation in my class, I usually just email myself so that there's a date and time stamp and I don't forget to do
Absolutely.
it. And I don't say, was that Wednesday or Thursday?
Absolutely.
I like the idea of copying the student in.
Yes, because therefore then they can't say, because when we see them,
Right.
we're going to talk about, if you tell me that I gave this person a verbal warning on this date, and then when they come to us and they say, oh, that didn't happen, or, she might have thought she did, but it won't me. It must have been Mark.
Email, should we also copy you?
Well,
Or
you
is that
can't-
just way too much?
No,
Or does that help you?
and it does, because therefore then we have it. But if you give it to the student,
That's enough.
then you're good. And therefore, when you have a violation that you want to bring to our attention, then you can
know those times and I attach the emails.
That's fine, and therefore, that's when you would upload your information there as well.
Right.
And then the student knows already that, yes, this happened at this point. And so then when they're in our office, we can say, well, your instructor spoke with you on this day about this and, gave you a warning.
Right.
Is that not a FERPA problem?
Pardon me?
FERPA?
No, not within the institution.
No, we're working for the.
No, sending it to the student. They told us yesterday we couldn't email a student about their attendance, but this is different.
This is
This is a violation.
A violation of the art.
This is about a violation.
Right.
I'm just thinking, what if mom reads that email?
Well, are you sending it to the Wake Tech email? Did they say that you can't send it?
Unless we have the form, right? Unless we have the permission form.
We can't send it to their parent.
I don't think it is. You can send it to their Wake Tech email address.
It's still with grades or,
Grades, attendance.
so I have my students sign every semester, receive it in and online. They have to sign something saying I can discuss with them via email,
Yeah.
whatever email address it is, anything dealing with grades or attendance.
My department doesn't even allow us to use that form.
Now,
This is not about a grade or attendance. This is about a violation. And this is about a violation in their class. Okay? Now, as long as you're not disclosing what their grades are or their attendance, now that's a totally different or separate situation. But what we're talking about is the violation of the academic integrity on this campus. Okay? That we will not tolerate. So you can certainly email the student that I've warned you about the cell phone situation, or I've warned you about your behavior in my class. And even if you're emailing yourself and copy that student, that's fine. And you can upload that email with the violation form that you submit to us.
And if you're comfortable with that, if you're in a seated class, you definitely can give it to them in person.
Right.
While they're in your class. Before class or at the end, you can give them what you would send to us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I've got to try to clarify something. Is it a FERPA violation to inform a student that they're in jeopardy of attendance violation?
Well, I asked that
I
question
don't think it
yesterday.
is.
They told us yesterday, I asked that
Well,
question, and they said it is.
We're responsible for letting them know their academic progress, and that's what we do. We give them grades and quizzes every week.
And I think they have a program, Starfish, that's starting. That's just going to do that.
Last semester, I was teaching once a week, and I had a problem on Sunday once a week, and so I was saying, well, how do I?
I mean, it's worse to have us just tell the student at the 11th hour, by the way, we're in the 12th week, and you're out of class because you violated attendance.
Let me say this on that, if I may. I think it's going to be important for you all to get clarification from the registrar's office, okay? And that way, everyone will be clear on what it is they can and can't do, because I don't know what has changed, and it's going to be important that, you know, you all have clarity, and she would be the authority on that, that's for sure.
Yeah. I asked her yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
If it is sent through Blackboard, it is not a violation.
Right,
If
so
it-
you could just make a code on Blackboard, instead of saying like quiz one, you could just say attendance, and that student only has access to that.
But if you send an email.
And it just, and you know.
That's what it is.
Right.
Email through Blackboard.
That's
Okay.
exactly what I thought we were talking about.
All right. Are we clear on the academic integrity form? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What happens, I mean, you'll have some very aggressive individuals, and, you know, I have a thick skin, I'm not afraid to talk to them, but if you think, you know, you bring a student in your office and you're shut the door, and you now tell them, hey, you're in violation of this, is it ever, I mean, can we call in like another, like our director, or someone else to kind of be there to have an extra ear into?
That's a great point. Let me share this with you. Never, and particularly in our cases, I never meet with students alone. And particularly for me, I never meet with female students alone, without my door either being cracked and someone sitting outside there, or a third party being in there. That is to protect you. Because trust me, there'll be three sides of that story when that meeting is over if it's just two of you there, okay? And so you need a witness there to either be a scribe, a witness, or, and you can definitely use your department head, or you can use a coworker as well. But you always want to protect the integrity of your conversation by having a witness in there. And it doesn't preclude the student having a witness come in to protect their interest as well, okay? But you can't discuss their business in front of another student unless they have waived that right, okay? Absolutely.
And what I typically do, and I'll piggyback on what Mark just said, what I will typically do on my campus, if I know that there may be a contentious student coming in, that there's a situation, then I'll always talk to my assistant. The door will be open more than not, and I would ask her to listen prior to this person coming in. So therefore, she may not be directly in my office with me, but she's right outside of the office, and she can still hear what's going on, because I want that person to feel comfortable as well. Okay.
I mean, I hate to say it, they require 7 hours of office time a week. And I know you're talking about disciplinary and other problems, but there's no way you can have somebody listen or have an assistant every time a student decides to come in and use my office hours. A student ain't walk in my office at any time during my office hours and just lower the boom on me or whatever, it could be a female. There's not much we can do. I mean, I try and resolve problems via email and reserve office hours to come in and for tutoring.
Right.
But you really don't know what the student's gonna try and pull on.
You don't. And we don't know what we're gonna get when the student
Right.
comes to our office. It's just fortunate for us that we have individuals that are around.
Well, if you can
And
plan
I guess
ahead.
if you can plan ahead of that and be proactive of it, if you know a student's coming in with their guns blazing, listen, Mark, can you come over and sit in on this one with me? You know, and those kinds of things. But yeah, you're right. There's no way to know what their intent is going to be when they're there.
Her too. I had an online student wanted to talk to me on the phone. Would constantly write me and say, "Are you available at 7 tonight? Can I call you?" And I give my phone number out for emergencies. And I tried to discourage it. I checked with my dean and I said, "You know, I really don't want to talk to a student on the phone, period. It's unrecorded. I can do nothing but get in trouble."
Right.
So I wrote her back and I said, "I prefer you send me a copy of what your problem is. I'll try and resolve it. If that doesn't work, we can set up a meeting or something." But she got real mad.
Sure.
You said you're supposed to be available and stuff, and you gave me your phone number. How come I can't talk to you?
And I am available since I am typing this email to you.
They tried.
Trust me. It's a whole different student we're dealing with nowadays. It is a totally different student we're dealing with nowadays. Okay? There was a time when if you didn't make the office hours, you wait till the next one. Okay? But you're right. We can't anticipate every situation. And even if a student comes in and they start lowering the boom and there's no one around, let me walk to a more public area where someone can witness what's about to go on. Okay? Because I don't want to ever be behind my closed door with a student. Then all of a sudden, I feel, like Joseph in Potiphar's house, and now all of a sudden trumped up rape charges on
One
Dean
more
Gibson.
question. I used to teach 6 to 10 at night.
Wow.
And I know that I probably should not escort anybody to the walk out to the parking lot with students. Okay? And yet they would wait after class to discuss something that went on in class, and I'd walk them to the parking lot at North Campus. And so I've always been indecisive that, I probably should not be escorting a female student to a parking lot if there's one. But if there are 2 or 3 that stay and they want to talk and ride down on the elevator together, is there a prescribed behavior, or we play it by ear? Or,
Wake Tech Campus Police.
Yeah.
Call them and tell them.
No offense, but on North Campus,
Yeah.
try and find them. That might take 3.5 days. There have been weeks which I've never seen one.
Wow. Okay.
That is another issue on student safety.
And one thing about the North Campus parking lots, most of them have cameras.
I know.
Yeah.
I looked up on the building.
Yeah.
And I thought no matter what, there's a video camera there. I'm protected.
Yeah, so that's a help as well.
As long as it's not a dummy.
And I think it goes back to something we said earlier. We really have to be mindful and treat the student like we want to be treated. And then oftentimes, you'll know from within when you need to say, can you hold on a moment? Even if there is a person who's come to your office, can you hold on one moment? I need to get someone else or whatever. And I've done that.
Right.
I've had people who come in that didn't know what they were going to share or say, and when they started, and then there was no one outside of my area, I said, can you hold on one moment? And I've done that to make sure that someone else was hearing what needed to be heard. And definitely with something that needed to have a counselor type involved. So I've done that. So we just have to be able to listen to our inner voice and also remember that these students are dealing with a lot more issues than we've dealt with, I think, when we were going through school. It's a different time, and we just have to be more cognizant and mindful of that for sure. But we want you to know that we're here to offer support and help in any way that we can. And we're here to support the students as well.
You've got a lot on your plates. Okay, and that's why Karen and I are here to try to alleviate some of that, that pressure that you don't have to deal with. Okay. All right.
This is how you
what Max, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you want this form for documentation purposes only, or once we're sending the form, we're asking for action? Does that make sense?
Once you send in the form and ask for action, that's when you want that. Yeah, but with this, you can upload any supporting documents that you have, with this form. But we also want you to understand that you can't pile incident upon incident in one form. If there's something that has occurred, then you need to act upon that then. You can't hold on to it and say, okay, well, this happened 2 weeks ago, and now I'm adding this to that. It doesn't work that way. So if something was so egregious that you wanted to say, let me do a form on this or something, then do it then, because that helps us. And it helps us with maxing it, because no matter where the student is, there's a case, if we create a case that's been made, and so Mark can see it, I can see it, and they'll tell us this is number 1 or 2 or whatever. So therefore, we know that we have a situation with a student who's, doing more than just something in your classroom.
Completing this form, and instead of the 1069 was, they had to be mailed to the student. It had certified mail to make sure it got there, all that good stuff. Does this take away any of that? Does this go directly to the student?
No, it doesn't go to the student, it comes directly to marketing. You still need to communicate to the student however you have, or however your department has, or dean has said. For example, academic integrity cases. In some instances, some departments, that student will get a letter stating, this is what has occurred, this is what the penalty, the sanction you're going to receive. Now, you may give that student a sanction of 0 in this particular class. Mark and I still have liberties to give the student another sanction. Okay? You can only give a certain number of sanctions or a certain type of sanctions. Mark and I have the liberty to give more sanctions than you can. So that's why it's important that you note to the student what it is you're doing, because you won't know that this student has done something else in another classroom, perhaps. We would know that. So then, therefore, we may give additional sanctions, and it won't be just based upon what you have said. It could be based upon their history. Sure.
So we'll take this information and then, however we had done it in the past, continue to do it that way.
Right.
However you continue to correct.
Right.
Correct.
And see what Maxian does for us, it builds a history for the student. Okay? And so while, as Karen has said, while it may have happened in your class, we've got a history that it has happened in her class, we've got a history. And so while your sanction is a 0 for the class, academic integrity violation is a student code of conduct violation, which can have either suspension or expulsion attached to it, okay? Or restrictive probation, which means one more incident and we ramp it up to the next level, okay? And so, I've had a case with a student who had 3 plagiarism cases in the same semester and couldn't understand why they were being suspended. Well, it's obvious you don't want to do work here. Or you want to do someone else's work and submit it as yours. And so we have the luxury where you don't of seeing the history of that student. And Maxian does an excellent job. This is probably the best thing since sliced bread, literally, for us. Because not only do we keep that in an electronic file, we're taking all these papers, but now it generates already letters from us that we have pre-written that are loaded in here. So that takes away from, the amount of time that our assistants have to do all this paperwork and having to do. It just spits out these letters and it builds the case for us. And now we have a history of what Mark Gibson's behavior is here at Wake Tech.
Real quick, trying to figure out, so I had students come to me after I said, look, blatantly this was a problem, so therefore I'm going to have to remove you from the class. They come to me and say, oh no, what is this going to do to my record? What is it going to, how should I respond to that? Because now it's going to be not just what I have sent in, it's going to be compiled and put together in a case report. What should I say to them? Just say that's not
you can encourage them to see us.
Okay.
You can encourage them to see us.
And let me say this, because Maxine is so new, if you see something within it that you might think, well, it'd be nice if this could happen, shoot me an email, please, because some things can be changed or manipulated, some things cannot. So I need your input to be able to determine what is working or what isn't working. So don't think you have a tool that you said, this is horrible and I wish this could happen or that could happen. Send me an email, please, and that way I can at least look into it and determine if we can modify and make any changes to do something different. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, I think we've gone over this, that we're using Maxient, which is an online reporting system. Everything is done electronically now, so you aren't going to need the paper versions. And if you use SafeAssign in your classrooms or anything else, you can definitely upload those in Maxient. They take not only Word documents, but picture documents in MP3, so you can upload a lot of different things up in Maxient, okay? And then attach it to that form, and that form will either come to Mark's office or to my office.
You all are very familiar with these. The cornerstone of who we are. Communication, the critical thinking, respect, responsibility, collaboration, and accountability.
And these aren't just for you. This is for the whole Wake Tech community. So we're asking our students to understand that as well. So it's not just for us, it's for the whole community. That means students alike. This is our role as deans of students, to listen to both parties. Okay? Even though we advocate for the students, we're listening to both parties. We're trying to come up with a viable solution for everyone. We want to ensure that the rules that are established in the handbook are followed. And that's why it's very important that you become more familiar with them, because if you give us a violation and said, well, this person did this and it's clearly not a student code violation, then we'll share back with you. We're sorry, we aren't going to be able to act upon this because this isn't a violation.
This is who we are. We're deans of students, okay? Which means, and we're also conduct officers, which means someone said, well, how can you be an advocate for the students and be the disciplinarian for the students? This is a faculty member said this to us. You remember? Yeah. It's just oxymoronic. You just can't do that. That's just, are you a parent? Like, yeah. Said, do you love your kids? Yeah. When they make a mistake, do you discipline them? Yeah. Okay. There it is. They're our kids. We're going to advocate that they do well, that they respect the rules and regulations of this campus. But we're also going to discipline them when they violate those. Okay? So while we advocate for them, we also have expectations of them as well. Okay? So and contrary to popular belief, all faculty members are not always right. Okay? There's some who just, they don't follow the rules. And they take it out on their students. And that's where we come in. I'm not speaking, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, so I'm not. But there are some incidents where faculty members cross that line. Okay? Here's our, and we talked about this earlier. Here's our desired outcome. We want a workable solution, not that we're afraid or don't want or can't deal with those situations or workloads, but anytime you can avoid having it ramped up to a conduct case. That's why we talk about the difference between conduct, behavior, and classroom management. When you've got that management there, that means that there's that communication that's going on. And so while I may step out of line, it doesn't mean that I necessarily need to be fired from my job for what I've done. You're saying to me, Mark, that's not how we do it. So we worked out a solution where you're showing me how it needs to be done. Let's try to mediate to a workable solution. That's what our role is.
Let me say something here, Mark. This is where it's really important to note. We don't want to have every student in the classroom be expelled. The students are why we're here. This is a community college. For a lot of these students, this is their only hope or opportunity. And oftentimes when we listen and communicate with that student and to that student, we can find out a lot of things that are going on, that we may have resources within the college or even outside the college that may be able to help that student navigate through the process. So every time there's something that may be a code violation, oftentimes there's something underlying that's going on. So we can even talk with the student and get to the root of it or mediate something else that's workable. We all want to have a win-win situation. And the goal is to help the student attain their educational goal, whether it be a certificate, whether it be transferring, whether it be here so they can do something short-term. But that's what our goal should be. And so everyone in the classroom won't look like us. They won't behave like us. They won't have the same background as we have. And that's wonderful because that adds diversity. That gives us an opportunity to look at something from a different vantage point as well. So remember that, if you will.
Now we're coming to the great part of this presentation. Scenarios. What would you do in this situation? A student comes to you and tells you before class that he or she is having a family emergency. His grandmother is very ill. Where's my instructor? Okay. Grandmother is very ill and would like to have permission to place the phone on vibrate in order to receive a phone call from another family member. He doesn't want to miss class now and get counted absent. What would you do? Yes, ma'am.
I happens all the time. I make a blanket statement to the class saying we're having an exception to our rule, text their phones out because this is the situation. I've already asked the students, that's okay that I share that. They've always been okay with, yeah, please let everybody know that that's what's happening. And I haven't had a problem with that.
Excellent.
I'm sorry.
I've had this happen before. I asked her to sit in the door, and then when the call does come in, she's stuck out in the hallway, and call and rejoin when possible.
Excellent. Oh, wow. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
At another community college, we used to ask them if they had family emergency or something going on with a sick child, to leave their cell phone with our department secretary, and if a phone call came, she would come to the class and get it.
Okay. Right out here. It's a good
In
idea.
some instances here, that would be more difficult than not, because if that person has gone on another campus or gone down the hall or something, so, but that's work
great.
there, yes.
We've even had some faculty members who had the phone next to them. And if it buzzed, here you go. But all of these are correct. All of these are correct.
Workable solution.
Absolutely. We're just sort of pacing ourselves here. A student writes a paper and says in the paper that he is feeling homicidal. His boss has been on his case at Walmart, and his instructor doesn't seem to give him a break. He feels like he has to exact revenge. You're reading this paper on a Friday evening after your class. What do you do?
I know what I would do. It may not be the right thing, but I would call my department head. I would definitely let him know that. I would, in fact, send him that email or whatever.
Your department head has decided that he and or she and her husband are headed down to Savannah, Georgia
Well,
for
the
the
dean,
weekend.
I'm going straight on up the ladder.
The dean is at a conference in San Antonio.
Well, I don't know what to do.
And I am definitely not answering my phone. No. What do you do? What do you do? The student says in the paper they're homicidal. Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't this allow you to breach confidentiality if someone is in danger, you're able to contact authorities?
Yes, you are. And in this case, this is what one should do. If you're at home or, you know, it's the end of the day and you get this, you can definitely call the police, give them as much information as you know about the student and say, do you mind doing a wellness check? And this is why. And they will do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a clear situation where if you're off campus, this is after 5 on a Friday, no one's there, you can definitely call police. And then, because our police, they're here, someone is at dispatch here 24/7, you may even want to call the 65911, 866-5911, because the dispatcher would be there and say, okay, yes, but yes, you can call 911 and say, this is what's going on. I'm an instructor here. I'm reading this paper. I have a student who said this. Could you please go by and do a wellness check? This is what has occurred.
And, but all we would have is their name, right? We don't have their address.
Well, if this is your instructor, I mean, if this is your student, do you have access to Datatel at home or no?
No, I don't.
Okay, because some people do and some people don't, so I'm just asking. And then if you didn't have access, then this would be a perfect time to call the 866-5911 because someone's here 24/7 at dispatch and they have access to that person's information. If you have their name and ID, then they can look that up.
Also, we have a behavioral assessment team. And this could certainly fall underneath that category as well, where you can go on Eagle's Nest and you can go to the BAT, called the Behavioral Assessment Team. And after you've contacted authorities, you still want to put information in there so that it alerts either Dean Finney or myself that there's follow-up we need to do on Monday once we get back.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
We're still building. We're still building.
Scenario number 3.
Still building.
A student contacts you to alert you that an individual in your class is not who is actually registered for your course. This student has been taking the exams, quizzes, and field trips in the other students' place. How would you handle this discovery?
How? These are actual cases, ladies and gentlemen. We've changed the names to protect their identity.
Look like the last officer.
You would go to the director first. Okay, well then, what do you do with this situation now?
You're gonna have to pull the student out, and it's like a form of cheating.
Well, how are you going to pull this student out? How do you know that this has actually happened? Someone has alerted you that this is happening in your class. Who's not a student in your class?
Picture or something of the person.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the case is you have the people in your class, and you have access to Datatel as well, and the students are supposed to have their photo IDs there. Not all cases it comes across, but someone sends you an anonymous email saying Rachel Ray is not really Rachel Ray, but this person is in your class. And of course, the thing is to alert your department head or dean, yes. Do you say something to the student then?
After the class, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
least clarification, we need to figure out what.
Okay. All right.
You had something in this back, sir? Yes, sir.
After the class, ask him or her social security. And then compare that one to the class roster or other information, then he or she provided to the school.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's give you some information. I'm sorry.
Would we not just submit an academic violation in this case without an escalation?
No, you would not submit an academic violation in this case.
I mean, the establishment of that it is not the student.
Have you established that it's not the student?
If that was established, would this be?
Oh, yeah,
a
absolutely.
Yeah.
After you've established it. After you've established it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but
Yes.
we're still trying.
We're still trying to figure out what to do when you get this email or this phone call.
Detective.
That's it. Yes, sir.
How we handle this one on online classes?
Oh, that's the whole. That's all about
But, let me share this with you.
Yes.
I have dealt with an online class cheating where the student, because they have, what is it? What kind of number is that called? It's a IEP number.
Yes.
Okay? And so we had a daughter who was submitting her work or her quiz, and less than a minute later,
Yes.
the mother's submitting the same wrong answers, same computer, same IEP. That's one way. This is a real situation that Karen had to deal with.
Okay, let me tell you what. If someone comes to you who is a student or someone else and saying, hey, look, this is what's going on. Well, first of all, you have no idea if this person has a vendetta against someone who's just giving you, a story, a bogus story of what. So you don't know. So therefore, yes, you talk to others and you bring in Mark or me and you say, well, this is kind of the situation. Well, one thing that you can't do, you can't go in the classroom and then all of a sudden say, I need to see everybody's ID. You can't do that. Or you can't just go and ask for this person, let me see your ID. You can't do this. But in this scenario, they were going on a field trip and it was a Saturday. And so what the instructor did on that Saturday is say, okay, I want to make sure that everyone who's coming in this particular location, they are the students in my class because it's Saturday, it's a public venue, but I want to make sure I have all of my peeps here as you were. So then they were able to ask for their, ID, present your ID. So when they got to this individual said, well, I don't have my ID on me. Let me go to the car. And then they never returned. And so therefore, then I got involved with the situation and called the person in and told them what was going to happen. And of course, they didn't deny it, and they never appealed, the expulsion. So that told me within itself too that was going on.
That's where the red flag went up when they didn't come back with their ID.
Right.
And then that was a suspicion that it was true.
And then the ID of the student that was supposed to have been in the class, what I did was talk to other instructors and say, is this person in your class? Can you look at this ID and tell me if this person is in your class? Has this person been attending? And in one instance or two, this was not the person that had been attending the class. Okay. So no, you can't do anything that would be discriminatory, of course, and you can't, single groups out in ways, but there are ways to do certain things, yes.
I thought that we have the right, so to speak, to ask for IDs to make sure, just because of the protection and the safety of the campus.
Yeah, but you'll have to ask for everybody's ID, in the class, yeah. Anybody can ask a student at any point to, provide their identification, but you can't just single a person out. You have to ask everybody for their ID.
So I
Well, you would want to make sure, because I'm asking you, why do you need to see my ID? You're not asking everybody else for their ID.
Remember before we said, let's be consistent.
So why do you need to see my ID and not his? His isn't shown, so why do you need to see mine?
It just sounded like whenever you were talking about the scenario that the instructor couldn't
ask for that particular person's ID without asking someone else. And if that's not something that you would normally do, then all of a sudden I need to see, everyone's ID. That's, a red flag. And it worked out with the field trip situation. And then it was working out with me doing the investigation, talking with the instructor and saying, is this person in your class?
Okay. Trust me when we're helping you on this one.
Yeah, we don't, because you don't want someone else to think that you're not asking, you're not asking him for his ID. Why are you singling me out, asking me for, my ID?
Then all of a sudden we end up getting a grievance against instructor XYZ. Now my grades are falling. I think they have something against me. They're not doing what everybody else in the classroom. And they may legitimately be failing, not doing well in I shouldn't say failing, but not doing well in your class, legitimately. But in their minds, what you've done is you picked on them and not everybody else in the classroom.
Okay. And if you did that for everybody, then that would be okay, because you aren't singling a person out.
Can you require your class to show ID when you're testing?
Well, if that's what you would typically do in the beginning, yeah.
Start out how you want to end.
And that's something that you would definitely, talk to your department head and dean to find out if they're saying that that's okay. But yeah, students are supposed to have their IDs at all times. And of course, they don't always, but we're asking them to.
Facebook. Or as a woman in my church calls it, Facebox. A student's bragging on Facebook that they have purchased papers to submit in your class and have been doing it for some time now. They are sure that no one will rat them out on this issue. How do you respond to the information you get?
Immediately print that copy.
You do what?
Immediately print out a hard copy of the Facebook page.
Okay. That happened. That doesn't prove anything other than it's been posted.
I think copy, go to my dean.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? This does happen, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me. This does happen.
Safe to sign it, but had not already been done.
Okay. Good. But you get the information from another student that this is going on. Again, we have to be, just like Karen said, we got to be very careful and vet the information that you get. Turned out, in this scenario, there was a young lady who was upset with another young lady because her ex-boyfriend is now her boyfriend. And they seem to be so happy. So this is what she does. She goes to the instructor and says, it's on Facebook. And it was on there. We got a shot of it that the student, and it was a bad joke because we couldn't even find an assignment that even mirrored it. But you've got to be careful about some of the stuff that comes to you on behalf of another student. Okay?
So, was the student that reported this dealt with?
Yes.
She had a question mark.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but because I would not know how to handle most of these scenarios correctly, what did you all major in? I mean, what is your background? Is it criminal justice or what? I mean, what
I'm
kind
a father of 4 sons.
Father what?
Father of 4 sons.
Oh.
I'm the son. My mother had 5 sons and no daughters. But be that as it may, political science.
Political science.
That's what I majored in. And then in grad school, student personnel services.
Okay.
Well, for me,
Yes, ma'am.
Do students ever just show up at your office and not bother with the instructor to make these kinds of?
Sure they did.
Oh, yes.
Sure they did.
Oh, yeah.
Sure they did.
Oh,
Quite
yeah.
often.
Okay.
I need to see you. I had one student who had a very, very offensive shirt and demanded to see the dean. I'm demanding to see the dean. And I want to talk to him, and he's going to listen to me. And his shirt says, I love to, and the F word underneath it. I says, oh, yeah, I want to see you too. What? It's just a shirt. Oh, okay. Needless to say, his information that he demanded to say, it just sort of went by the wayside all of a sudden. When we dealt with the code of conduct violation, which says you shall not wear anything that has profanity or discriminatory remarks on it. So, yeah. All right, Karen and I went to a crisis prevention institute a couple of years ago, and a lot of great information that was shared with us. But these principles for effective verbal interventions we found to be very, very, very powerful. First of all, remain calm in all your situations.
Right. If someone is in your presence and they're yelling, then the first thing to do normally would be to yell with them. But now if you don't do that, you just get very quiet and say, okay, how can I help you? And then come on in and have a seat and we'll talk about that. And then at some point, I asked them, can you lower your voice? Can you lower your voice a little bit? I'm hearing you, but I need you just to lower your voice a bit. A little bit louder. And so we can't go, well, Miss So-and-so, you did this or whatever, and I can't yell back at them and say, well, you did this. No. Lower your voice. And 9 times out of 10, theirs come right down, especially when they see that you're listening to them. They want to be heard.
Isolate the individual. Talked about that earlier. Never try to either confront or deal with the situation while they are around their friends, crew, posse, boys, homies, whatever you want to call them. Okay? Don't do it.
Or walking down the hall. I had a situation where there was an instructor who was telling the student off walking down the hall with a parent there.
Not good. All right? Isolate them. Keep it simple. They don't need to know that you went to the University of Colorado, you got a PhD. Keep it simple. Here's what you've done. Here's the situation. Here's what's going to happen. If you need any other information about it, see the dean. Okay? Don't try to get into negotiations with them. If you've made your mind up about what it is that you're going to do it and stick to it. They have an appeals process they can go through. Okay? Watch your body language. Your body language says a whole lot to them. If they're in your office to talk with you, give them your attention. That's not the time to check your email, look at who's calling on the cell phone, slouching, looking all around. It shows them that you aren't engaged in their conversation. You're not interested. Okay? Even if they're with students, even if they're talking with other students and you need to see them, just like you don't like to be interrupted, don't interrupt that. Wait your turn and say, I need to see you when you get an opportunity. Okay? Your body language says more than your verbal language does.
Silence. Silence is very golden. I've had people just come into my office and they're just going on and on and on and off. And I let them get it all out before I even try to inject. I just let them talk. And that really does help when you just let them vent if you have the time. Now, when they go back for the 3rd or 4th time, I'll stop them and say, now, we've gone
And that not only goes for you, that goes for us as well. Because, I mean, we'll get repeat customers. And we've got to really go like, okay, really? Are we back here again? All right. A student leaves the classroom frequently, and you aren't sure why. You speak with the student to let the student know that leaving the classroom is distracting and that distracting to you and other students. The student tells you that the medication that they're taking keeps them going to the restroom. How do you handle this situation? Yes, ma'am.
Had this one last semester.
All right.
I told him to get a doctor's note over to DSS, get accommodations, and I would be happy to go along with it. He never showed up with a doctor's note, and he stayed in class the rest of the time.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else?
Now, I don't know if with DSS, if they would be able to, you know, go get accommodations because of that, but there are some people, for example, who are diabetic or whatever and stuff. And in some instances, a person has said, okay, I need you to be closer to the door or be in the back of the classroom, and then, you know, you do whatever. But, you know, there are different ways to handle that. So I don't know that DSS could even give the person accommodations
But
that
with
way.
no doctor's note at all, that's what made me suspicious, because I told him, I'll gladly look at it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. But that's where we, you know, we just have to really be mindful. But there are some instructors who will say, okay, I need to have you sit here. Or if a person is diabetic and the person needs to, you know, go out and take some candy or eat something more frequently or something for various reasons, and there are ways to, you know, get around that.
But it's reasonable to ask the student to verify that.
Sure it is.
Absolutely.
Sure it is.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Especially when it becomes distractive and interrupting the educational
Sure.
process. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. No. We still don't have all the answers. And the reason we still don't have all the answers is because each semester, just like each day for us, it's new. But together we can communicate and come up with some solutions and possible solutions for situations that come our way. In times of change, it is not the learners that will inherit the earth, while the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. We are constantly evolving as learners. That's the beauty of life. I don't care where you are in life, you're always learning. When you feel that you have learned everything there is to know, guess what? It's obsolete. It's just like some of the computers we have. Just as soon as we pull them out of the box, they're obsolete because something new is coming your way. Okay? We don't have all the answers. We don't purport to have all the answers. But one thing we do know is that together, as we work together, and we work together with you all as well, we can find some solutions, or at least start to address those issues together. Here's our contact information. Now, please, we don't say this in jest. We sincerely mean this. If you have any questions whatsoever, we're here for you. Okay? You need definitions or clarifications on policy and definitions of violations? Call us. Karen's on the North Campus. 25663. You've got her email address. You can contact me or Jonathan Work, our Associate Dean, for all other campuses, including Maine, Western, Health Science, AEC, and Public Safety.
And then if you just wanted some clarification even prior to submitting that form, if you want to say,
Okay? KB Fennessy at waketech.edu. MT is in Thomas Gibson at waketech.edu. And J.A. Wirt, W-I-R-T, just like dirt, take the D off and add the W, at waketech.edu. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. And send us your situations and cases. We want to include them in our scenarios next week. All right?
Any questions, comments, concerns?
All right. Well, listen, thank you all. It's been wonderful. Thank